This episode is sponsored by Jenny Adara. Thanks, Jenny. Hello and welcome back to Film Pro Productivity and Success, the podcast that helps creative people to live a more focused, effective and happy life. My name is Carter Ferguson and this is episode 171. 3 reasons why creatives fail. You can't build a reputation on what you are going to do. Henry Ford, unquote. In last week's show, I looked at taking action to get things done, a classic subject in productivity terms, which included questions like, what's the smallest step that I can take right now to get stuff done? And something that also informs what I will be talking about today. Henry Ford's statement at the top of the show there is a reminder that action, not intention, is what counts. And that is followed on directly today by these 3 productivity-based reasons why creatives fail. And they do fail. You can't deny it. It is not easy. We are not going out with a blueprint having done it before. Well, some of us are. I'm not. Every show that comes in for me is a new script to read, is a new scene to look at, and although I can maybe use some of the formatting on a risk assessment that I've used before, I really do have to rewrite that risk assessment for each and every fight sequence that I'm asked to direct. And for those of you that have forgotten, I work in stunts in Scotland as a fight coordinator largely. And I've already worked on 3 risk assessments today, which was very exciting for me. The third of which was actually incredibly complex. The other 2 were fairly simple, in that 1, I didn't have enough information to complete, so that one ended. 2, it was just a headbutt. There was nothing very much to it. So it was, I don't need to bring crash mats and things for that one. It's just somebody, using a stage combat technique in effect to make that happen. But the third one is absolutely hectic with different things going on. And so there's nothing really out there that's a blueprint for us. And we do fail. Filmmakers fail. I'm heavily involved in the filmmaking community in Scotland, and it is really, really hard to make a film. And it's really, really hard sometimes just to get anything creative done. And that's why I thought this would be an interesting episode for us. So without further ado, let me crack on with it. The first reason why creatives fail is that we overthink instead of taking action. Creative people often spend far too much time planning, researching, or perfecting an idea instead of actually starting it. For example, a freelance illustrator might spend months researching the right platform on which to sell their art. They might be thinking about Etsy or Shopify or eBay, and ultimately they might not list anything, while a less experienced artist just will upload their work to a basic site that they've heard of, the first one, maybe the only one they've heard of, and they'll start making sales right away. So this is the sort of thing which can happen, and fear of failure, fear of judgment, or the belief that everything must be perfect before launching are all factors that lead to this sort of inaction for us. I'm wondering if you recognize this in yourself. So if you fear that you are kept back by overthinking, then consider one of these 3 strategies to beat that problem. Number 1, focus on starting rather than perfecting. And remember, I've said it many times before, done is always better than perfect. Another one, and I said it last week, but it's a good one, is to use the 2-minute rule. So if a task takes less than 2 minutes to complete, or looks like it's going to take less than 2 minutes to complete, then just do it. Get it done. And third on my little list of ways to overcome overthinking is to set a deadline for starting and not just finishing. For example, by Friday, I will upload my first product, even if it's not perfect. And I did this, I think I mentioned this a couple of episodes ago, but I did this at the start of the show. I put out a video that I'd shot in the office, which I looked tired in it and I wasn't really sure what I was doing. But the action of doing it, just going and recording it, kind of forced me to release it. And that's because I thought I'd just go for it. And I was trying a different way of promoting the show. I'm still working on that, by the way. I did record another one. Here's another thing. I did record another one the next week, and I actually felt two things. felt it was too polished. It looked like I'd rehearsed and scripted it, which in effect I had, so I didn't release it. And also, I kind of thought it was bollocks because I had overthought what I was going to say and over-polished it, and I was using phrases like I don't normally use. I even used ChatGPT to try and give me some ideas on what a hook might be for it, etc. And in the end, I looked at it and thought, this is not me, this is not right. But that's not the point. The point is that I started it, I recorded it, I finished it, I just chose not to release that one. But the one the week before, I did, and I am still doing those videos. You've seen I've put a few of them in the car because I've been working up north and been doing a shoot in Wick with my friend Louis. He's making his big feature up there. What I've seen so far is fantastic, so that's going to be one to look out for. I'm not allowed to talk about it though, so I'll just leave it there. Long story short, first reason why creatives fail is that they overthink instead of taking action, so do not fall into that trap. And the second reason why creatives fail, and this is definitely one I do sometimes fall into, is that we don't prioritize effectively. I'll say that again, we do not prioritize effectively. Creative people will often get stuck doing busy work, not business, but busyness. Work effectively that doesn't move our goals forward, our larger goals. For example, tweaking a website design for hours instead of sending out our pitches or our CVs, or focusing down on projects that don't bring a revenue. This podcast might be one of them. And you might recognize things like that you might be cleaning the house instead of doing the stuff that really, really matters. You're procrastinating on it. And another thing would be maybe what I was doing here when I was writing this podcast episode, which is doing the podcast work before I sent off the invoices that I needed to do. I remember distinctly when I was putting this one together that I had invoices to do, but I just had it in my mind. In order to do the invoice, I needed to complete doing some work on this show. So we confuse being busy with being productive, is what I'm saying. Another example is that a writer might spend weeks perfecting their portfolio website, but won't actually send it out to any potential clients. Or a photographer might spend hours editing their personal work instead of delivering a client project on time. I know filmmakers that have made films that have never released them. I'm not even going to get into it again. It's just annoying, and it actually you do eventually think less of the filmmakers. If you're listening to it, you'll know who I'm talking about, guys. Like, don't make a film and don't release it. Make a film and put it out there and move on to the next one, even if your film is shite. You hear what I'm saying? Anyway, this sort of thing happens all the time because it's easier and more comfortable for us to focus on small, familiar tasks than tackle the high-impact actions that we might feel intimidating. It's like we've got a fear of it. And if you think you've got a problem in this area, then try. One thing that definitely worked for me is the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle. Look back somewhere in the past, there's an episode all about it. That's where you identify 20% of the tasks that will deliver 80% of your results. Focus on those first. I've done a whole episode on this, as I say, and I use it all the time. So if you want to find out more, do go back, check it out on the official website, filmproductivity.com, where you can search for it. It's called the Pareto principle. Another thing that you can do if you feel that you can't prioritize properly is to make a top 3 list every day. Write down the 3 most important tasks that will bring you closer to your goals and do those before anything else. That's just a top 3 list for every day. Focus on them, and then anything else you get done on top of that is valuable. I think this is something that I should really have looked this up, but Steve Jobs did something similar. In fact, let me just stop the recording and check this out. And I'll be back in 1 second. Okay, I'm back. I had a quick detour off recording there. So he was known, he had a reputation for being incredibly focused and dedicated to his work, often spending hours in deep concentration on a single task. He also was known for simplifying what he was trying to do. A lot of people say it was the key to his success. And another thing is that, and this is episode 2 of the podcast, is he was great for saying no to almost everything, including meetings, events, product ideas, anything like that didn't align with his vision, and that allowed him to focus on the projects and tasks that he thought most important. So that's what I'm getting at there with making a top 3 list every day. focus on those most important tasks before you go on to anything else. And third on my list here is ask yourself, does this task that I'm doing bring me closer to my primary goal? And if not, reconsider doing it and look for any other action that does bring you closer to that primary goal. This is something I possibly need to work on myself. I'm distracted by work, which I have to do because we've got to earn a living and pay our bills and all that sort of thing. But I find myself getting distracted, for example, by this podcast, which is not a primary goal of mine, given that I've got like scripts that I need to finish writing. But the reason I do, just to support my own commitment to this show, is I do want to create it to give back to my fellow creatives. I've had my burnout. I've had my troubles in the past. I've talked to you about it on many episodes. And when I do this show, it brings my focus back together and it sharpens my mind so that if I do a season of this show and then go on to work on my own creative stuff, I am much, much better at getting stuff done. Anyway, that was that. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. African proverb, unquote. And the third reason why creatives fail is that they work alone and they burn out. Many creatives try to do everything themselves: client work, marketing, admin, and everything that's involved in any creative project, but without asking for help or working with collaborators. And they eventually hit a wall, lose their motivation, or feel isolated. I know from experience that working alone can sometimes feel like the safest option, especially if we've ever been let down by collaborators, which I have. I've had some terrible collaborations in the past. I've done a show about it called Bad Collaborations. Go and check that one out. Or there's another show I'm sure about hijackers where you have your ideas nicked, stolen from you. And in the creative industries, there's always a risk of running into project hijackers, people who just want the glory without doing the graft. As I say, I've done a show about it. So it's easy to end up thinking, if I want something done right, I'm just going to do it myself. But the truth is, when you start to do everything on your own, it is a fast track to burnout. You miss out on the energy, feedback, and shared problem solving that can come from real collaboration. And I do try to do an awful lot on my own. I have real problems finding good people to work with. It's not that I want to work on my own. I really, really don't on many, many of these things. I just feel that I have to. So this is a problem of mine I'm bringing up here, this working alone thing. I think it's really important to be intelligent about who you work with and how you protect your own work. And over the years, I've learned to be careful about who I trust. And I always recommend starting small with new collaborators, setting very clear boundaries, expectations, etc. And if possible, get stuff down in writing when you're going into a new project with someone, whether that's about the credit that they're going to get, the role they're going to be taking on board, or how decisions will be made in the pecking order there. These things need to be confirmed in writing. In fact, I know a creative that recently agreed to pay £1,200 for someone to work on a job that they were doing, only for them to ask for £2,100 when it completed. And this fee should have been locked in and confirmed, at least by email, in writing before the whole project started. And if you're on a lot of creative projects, you'll understand how that could have slipped through the person's fingers, because you get distracted by other things, and the technical elements of making something can sometimes be difficult. But that is definitely a lesson learned from them there. It's still getting sorted out. And this isn't about being distrustful of others. It's about looking after ourselves and our own projects so we do not end up in a mess later on, because it will happen. There's misunderstandings happen, miscommunications happen, and you want to get it in writing. But here's the thing. When you do find the right people, collaboration is absolutely worth it. The best projects I've been part of have always been the ones where everyone is pulling in the same direction and bringing something new to the table. So yes, guard your work, choose your team carefully, and the team you worked with in not one project might not be the team that works for you, not every one of them, that works with you and is still good for you somewhere down the line. If you've done 3, 4, 5 projects sometimes with people and they've grown in other directions, they might not be the right people for you to work with in the 5th project down the line. Anyway, my point, and I'm obviously talking from experience there, but don't let your own bad experiences shut you off completely from the chance to work with others. Creativity, let's face it, it's often a team sport, and with the right collaborators, you can achieve things you'd never manage on your own. In terms of creative collaboration too, I've learned over time that one of the most important things is making sure that your values line up with the people that you're working with. It's not just about skills or experience, it's about attitude, it's about integrity, and the way that these other people approach the work that you're going to be doing with them. So if someone doesn't share your work ethic or your vision for the project, that can lead to frustration and conflict somewhere down the line. And taking the time to have honest conversations at the start about what matters to you and listening to what matters to them can save a lot of heartache. And when your values match up, everything else tends to run a lot more smoothly. I find myself burning out sometimes just doing this project because the research and recording of it is not where all of this ends. I have to update the website and the socials and create images and worry about the promotion, and it really is all too much sometimes. This season I'm going to try even harder with Google Ads, but in the past I have found myself burning out in that marketing phase as it's so out with my knowledge base. And in my case, it happens because the show is done for free and there's no budget for helpers, but creatives often resist collaboration or outsourcing because we feel like we need to do it all to prove our worth. Others avoid joining communities because they fear rejection or judgment, or fear the criticism of others, or loss of control is another thing that comes into play. The burnout for me on this episode, I'm kind of going a little bit off piste here, is in that I've been releasing on the socials. Twitter is dead. I mean, it's called X now, but it died when it changed to X. So I think I'm going to be not shutting down the Twitter page, Film Pro Prod Pod. I think I'm going to be just very occasionally updating it and just let it sit there as a kind of not used very often thing. I'm going to push more focus onto Facebook. Anyway, you don't need to know that. I'm going off piste, as I say. I mention the socials because it used to be I maybe only had to create one image, a square image, for promoting the show. Now I need one which is 1080 by 1350, something like that. That's for Instagram. I need one for the website and for some other site, some other social, which has got to be 16 by 9. And I need the square one for the website anyway. So I now need to create 3 different images, which means I can't put the same update out on 3 different social media platforms, which means that when I go to buffer these, and I use this free tool Buffer to release info about the new shows on 3 different platforms at the same time, I now need to go into each one of those 3 things and change what each of the 3 is saying. So my work is I've kind of got, I don't know how much, 9 times the amount of work or 6 times the amount of work I previously had in promoting, and it is a drag. If I could find someone to help me solve this problem, I would have them on board in a heartbeat, even if it cost me a little bit of money. I haven't been able to find them. If you know someone that does know this and is willing to work for not a lot of money, get in touch about it. Anyway, I'm totally off piste there. Let me just jump back in with a quote which might get us back on target. Just as a reminder, what I'm talking about here on this one and the third one is that we work alone and we burn out. Burnout is what happens when you try to avoid being human for too long. Michael Gungor, unquote. If you're failing because of burnout, then perhaps one of these 3 strategies will help you along. Number 1, delegate or automate. Identify tasks that you can outsource or automate, like using invoicing software or hiring a virtual assistant would be 2 options. Delegating and automating are both elements of the focus funnel, incidentally, and if you can get to grips with them, then things are going to get a lot easier for you. I, to some degree, do it. I am hoping to I am going to find, let's use positive language, I'm going to find people that will help me to make this work better. The second one I've got here is to join communities, connect with other creatives for support, feedback and accountability, and this could mean joining a local meetup, online group or co-working space. Facebook or Discord groups are often hit or miss in my opinion, but the better communities do also offer real support. And number 3, set boundaries. Protect your energy by limiting how much work you take on and scheduling regular breaks. Productivity isn't about doing everything, it's about doing the right things sustainably. So creatives fail because they overthink and delay action, don't prioritise effectively, and they try to do everything alone. These habits create a cycle of inactivity, overwhelm, and burnout, but they are all fixable. So your call to action is to consider which of these 3 factors most contributes to your personal setbacks. This week, I challenge you to tackle the identified issue, whatever it is, by taking a concrete step to address it. This could involve setting a deadline, prioritising your tasks, or trying to find support from a fellow creative. By overcoming these known obstacles, you'll be better equipped to transform failures into productive stepping stones for success in your creative pursuits. So thanks again for checking in once again, and I hope you've enjoyed today's show. Please feel free to subscribe, and that'll ensure that you don't miss a future episode. I think we're in episode, I don't know where we are. We're in episode 6, somewhere like that, of season 14. And I would be very grateful if you're enjoying the show, if you take a moment to subscribe if you haven't already, or talk about this on social media, or share the episode with someone who might benefit from it. What some people do is they'll screen grab the show as they're listening to it, and they'll just post that on social media saying, this is a cool show, I like it, or whatever. If you could do that, that'd be awesome. But let me end today with some words from Nelson Mandela, who said, "The greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall." So take control of your own destiny, keep on shooting, and join me next time on Film Pro Productivity and Success. The music that you can hear right now is Adventures by Himitsu, and you can view the show notes for this episode only on the official website, filmproproductivity.com, where you'll get a full transcript of the show. You won't get that anywhere else. And please do follow my personal account on Instagram if you like. It's at fight_director. Or follow the show on Facebook. I'm going to cut out Twitter X from the world of my speech here. Look to at Film Pro Productivity on Facebook. Join the community there. Please do continue to support the show by subscribing, spreading the word, and leaving an awesome review. See you next time, folks.